Hello, everybody. My name is Rebecca. I'm from the MicroCAD marketing team, and today we're going to talk about Revit productivity with Mariah. But before we get started, we just do have a few polls to send out here. So on your screen, you're going to see the first one. Hopefully it is there for you. Just asking if you have our MicroCAD productivity tools. That's going to be one of the topics that Mariah goes over today. So either yes, no, unsure, maybe you don't know if your company has them or they came with your support package possibly. But just let us know if you do have those tools, since that is one of the pieces of today. We might have a little lag here, so I'll give you guys a few extra seconds. So far we have no's, majority no. Okay, so that's good. You can see exactly what the Revit productivity tools will do. And if you're interested in them, definitely reach out to your MicroCAD representative or myself after this webinar if you do want to look more into those tools. So I'll go ahead and close it. We did get mostly no's for that one. And the next one is just to see what discipline you are in. All right, I do apologize if there's a lag over there. We have majority architecture or interior design. That is awesome. We have some for mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Great, okay. I think we have everyone there. And the very last one, I promise, it's just to see what rendering software you are currently using, whether that's Revit, Native or Cloud, 3ds Max, Enscape, Lumion, or other. So if you can let us know there. It's awesome. I already see some Enscape people here. And that is another piece that Mariah will go over today as well. Okay, great. So we do have a lot of Revit and we do have some Enscape. So I will go ahead and close that. All right, and I will actually send it right over to Mariah so we can get started.
All right, thank you, Rebecca, and thank you everyone for answering those polls. It really does give us a better understanding of who we are talking to today. So with that, I am going to dive into PowerPoint for a few slides just to explain some things that we were talking about, and then we are going to hop directly in Revit and see some of this in real time, and hopefully without too many hiccups, because I did a webinar on Tuesday and certainly had a few there. So I am going to turn my webcam off at this point. All right, so our topics for today. So first off is our MicroCAD productivity tools. Next up, we're introducing some tips and tricks for this webinar. So specifically today, we are going to talk about field regions and global parameters. And then last but not least, we are going to talk about Enscape. So a brief overview of our MicroCAD productivity tools. So kind of a basic slide here. We will get into a lot more with the demo, but there are great ways to see some different things, zoom in some different ways compared to out-of-the-box Revit, pull different information a little bit easier to Excel and pull it back from Excel. I know that's a big factor for a lot of people. So that is the productivity tools. So field regions. So if you are new to Revit, or even if you are experienced with Revit, sometimes we do see a lot of issue kind of with field regions. So at the basis, there are the drafting field regions, and then there are model. So drafting is, symbolic form, such as a sand, stipple pattern. You're really looking at the density when it comes to drafting patterns, and it will often orient to the camera, so it's not great for 3D views. Model patterns, representing an actual appearance, such as brick or stone. It is fixed with respect to the model. And a nice thing is you can actually dimension to model fill patterns. And a little piece of trivia for you, if you aren't aware, you can always turn a drafting pattern into a model pattern in the notepad in that original PAT file by typing in this semicolon % type equals model. So if someone ever shares something with you and you need to use it for either or, you can certainly adjust that. So also global parameters. So what are they and possibly why should you even use them? So I believe global parameters were introduced in Revit 2018, maybe 19. So they've been around for a few years, but we're not sure how much traction they're actually gaining. So they are specific to a single project file, so just keep that in mind. But if you have a template, you can certainly insert some global parameters in there. And they can be very simple values to actually very complex equations, kind of what you want to use them for, you can certainly have that. Some common uses that I particularly love to use them for, material parameter association. So perhaps you are in the residential field and your client is trying to decide if they want some white trim or possibly some darker black trim, very opposite ends of the spectrum. If you have different door types, you certainly don't want to go through and adjust every single one of those. So you can associate a global parameter to your doors, change it in one place, it's going to update and change in a lot of places. And then flexible constraints, such as if you have a particular jam offset for a door from a wall, say you want a consistent 4-6 inches, this is a great way to keep that consistency. And then last up is Enscape, certainly not least though. So this is MicroCAD's newest offering. And one of the great aspects of Enscape is that it is real-time information. So I typically have 2 to actually 3 screens running, and typically if I am in Revit, I have Enscape open as well. Unfortunately, because I can only share one screen with you, I don't have it up at this time, and it actually, with sharing everything, I think it makes it lag just a little bit. But we will show you some examples that have been rendered in Enscape to give you a little bit of an idea. And then as reference, Rebecca will probably talk about this a little later on. We do have an Enscape webinar coming up, I think, in the next month. So that's something to certainly be on the lookout for. So with that, I am going to hop into Revit, and I am going to talk about the MicroCAD tools. But as reference, this is the last window I had open in Revit, and this is actually an Enscape rendering. So pretty seamless. It renders extremely quickly. You can see the type of quality that you do get, which we will come back to. So referencing just a floor plan here, our MicroCAD productivity tools do come with their own specific tab. So mine at this point is kind of the far right-hand side. And you will see there is quite a bit in here. And now I'm not going to go through every single one, but we are going to give you a brief overview of these. So our BIM manager panel. So we have a folder that can simply tell you where your file is living. Perhaps you've opened something, perhaps you forgot where it is, you've downloaded a family, you don't know where that's at, that folder can actually help you. Our export and our import, of course, work with their naming convention, but you can export selected families to a folder. Perhaps you inserted something for a particular project and you have determined that you want to use that consistently. You can save that out to your library. Of course, the import works in the converse order. If you need to bring some items in for a new project, you can certainly do that as well. So our BIM dropdown is kind of more for your BIM managers within your office. These might not be used by an everyday user, but one of the fun ones that I like to come in here and use is the multi-type editor tool. So if I bring this information up, you will see on the right-hand side that these are all of the parameters that are associated with your selected family. So for example, I'm going to select doors. I think most people are familiar with that. So you can come in here, all of your parameters, and one of the nice things is you can start to edit this information. So for example, I'm going to pick on my fire rating here, If I know this needs to have at least a 1 or a 2 hour, I can come in here and I can type this information very quickly and easily, and that will populate throughout your project. And a nice thing about this, if you are working in larger commercial type of entities, you certainly don't want to go and track every single door down and edit that information. So I'm going to close that out, and that information will stick. And a couple other things in here. So match instance properties. You can upgrade families if you are needing to upgrade your library, as well as copy standards from another project. And if you have any questions as we go through any of this, please feel free to type them in the questions box, or if by chance you don't see that, the chat window as well. So next up is probably one of the most powerful tools within our tool suite, and this is our BIM query. So as reference, seeing down here at the bottom, I do have some schedules already populated. So door schedule, again, kind of an easy one to always reference. What you can do is you can come in here with your BIM query. I apologize, it opened on my other screen. Bear with me for a moment. And you can actually open the door schedules, for example. So from here, you have all this information. This looks exactly like my door schedule. You can then save this and then open it in Excel. I actually have that pre-baked, so I'm going to switch over to Excel real quick. Close that pop-up window. So you will see door schedule all looks very similar to what we just saw. And from here, I've gone in and actually typed in manufacturer information. If you want, you can actually type in model information or any other thing that goes with it. So from here, I am going to do a save. I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to then open my schedule, go back to my tools because it does switch off of that. From that BIM query, I can then open that Excel file. As we see as reference, that saved time. I can open. We now see what we just saw a second ago in the actual Excel. And then from there, I can apply and close. And of course, come on, Revit, cooperate. Bear with me, guys. All right, there we go. I apologize, it switched back to PowerPoint really fast on me. But there you can see that that manufacturer information is now updated as well. And this will work for any type of content. So I know a few of you mentioned you were MEP. This will certainly work for you as well. And this is just an easy way to have all of your information coherent throughout your project, as well as in multiple places, and it all aligns. So going down the line, so some project cleanup. As you can see, there's a bunch of cleanup options that you do have for unplaced rooms or areas or spaces, as well as material cleanup. Great way just to keep that project size small, or when you're hitting a deadline or right after a deadline, certainly clean that up. Next up is our QA. So you can have a QA, QC with the tags, and then what that will do, it will actually show any tags that may or may not be, any entities, excuse me, that may or may not be tagged, such as your doors, your windows in plan. All right, so being conscious of our time, I am going to come over here to a few other elements. Come on, there we go, over inside. So under our Annotate, there is the align. So just a few different ways that you can align text. You can actually align them to other elements such as the line, anything along those lines. Our text actually features to uppercase or lowercase. So perhaps you accidentally annotated something in sentence case, you can easily change that. Bubbles is a fun little term, and what that indicates, let me switch to an elevation here real quick, is if you would need to show your bubbles, this works for levels and grids. So you can show or hide bubble at pick point, the same way with the level bubbles. So I'm going to say, turn both of those on and apply. You can see, all right, did not work. So this is always the fun part of live demos. All right. I'm not sure why it's not doing that. I'm gonna have to check on that one. But if I had grids in here, I could pick the opposite end of that bubble and it can show that as well. All right. Our renumber. So we have renumber by room, mark parameter, grid, a whole host of options in here that we can certainly go over. All right. And I am going to go down here to our view tab, again, being conscious of our time with everyone. And I'm going to switch to, actually, I'm going to leave it here. So on off, if you are familiar with AutoCAD at all, very similar in this nature. So a quick way to turn something on or off. So off, I'm going to pick on my doors, easily turns them off. And as reference, if I go to my visibility and graphic overrides, it does coordinate with that as well. So you will see that that box is unchecked. Simple check here will actually turn them back on, or you can always use this on button from here as well. Favorite couple ones, some zoom to room or space. So if I actually open that up, all right, evidently I don't have rooms on my first floor. So you can zoom to a specific area within here. So if I'm going to cancel that and go to my level 2 for a quick reference. So if I would zoom to just there, it zooms in quite easily. Now, granted, a project this size, you can easily pan around a lot easier, but if you're working on very large scale, this is something that can be quite helpful for you. All right, so I'm going to flip over to talking about our filled regions at this point, and just as reference, kind of what they will look like separately here. I'm going to open all these up, tile them next to each other, and you can see at the different scales. So the right side is 1.5. We have an 1/8 up there as well as half scale. You can see how these drafting and model patterns change or remain stagnant based upon that scale. So that's certainly something to keep in mind if this is something that is always confusing you, or you are introducing someone new to Revit and they're trying to understand that. So next up is our global parameters. So I'm going to switch to a 3D view here, close out some of these. So I'm going to zoom in kind of, in this area, you can kind of see quite a few doors in here. We got some, pantry doors and whatnot. If I would select one of these doors, for example, and I do my edit type, you will see that the panel, the frame, the trim material is all started to be grayed out. And there's this little box next to it, which is the associate the global parameter. So if I would bring that up, our global parameter dialog box comes up as well. And you can see within here that there are, it's related to that door material. So I'm going to cancel that. Do OK. And as reference, if you aren't familiar with where the global parameters live, they're on your Manage tab. And then in that left-hand panel, global parameters, or keyboard shortcut GL. If I bring that up, showing this on my screen a little bit, you will see that there are, my door materials. I have a couple other things in here as well. Now, one of the great things, I'm going to drag this over here to the side for a moment. As we see, this is snowfall at the moment. Perhaps I want to change this to an all black type of scenario. So I know this is in here, so bear with me while I search for this real quick. I apologize, my material browser has been a little slow lately, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. So Rebecca, are we seeing any questions come through at this time?
I don't see any just yet, but let me take another quick look. If you guys do have any questions about anything so far, definitely throw them in there so we can get them answered now, or we can answer them at the end. And I think we may have forgotten to mention the 2 handouts that we have, if you guys want to take a look at those. One of them is for the Revit productivity tools, and the other one is 8 reasons to use Enscape. So if you guys want to take a look at that, but I don't see any questions, so I think we can continue.
All right, thank you. Always double checking that we have any questions, we're getting those answered. So I'm going to go ahead and select the different paint color that I do want. I'm going to do an OK, and then as soon, I'm making sure that this isn't lagging too much. As soon as I hit that apply button, it might take a second because everything that's running on my computer here, you will see that those door panels automatically updated to that different color. So this can be quite helpful throughout your project, you know, especially larger projects. You don't want to hunt down everything. A quick association, pretty quick and easy, seamless, and gets you where you need to go. So with that, switching over to our Enscape, which I know I've mentioned a little bit before here. So I am not going to run it just because of all the kind of computing power and sharing all my screens and everything. But this is an example of a rendering. And as reference, Enscape takes minimal effort and also minimal time to render. So something like this honestly took like a minute or two. And I am going to show a video to you. And hopefully it doesn't lag too much. But this is straight out of Enscape and Revit. Took about 10 minutes to render. So it's not something that you all have to sit and wait for. So that's a nice helpful as well. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through this, and hopefully it's not too clunky as we kind of zoom through here. And we end on that lovely kitchenscape that you all have seen as the, you know, in-place rendering as well. So with that, one of the items I do want to point out with Enscape, very similarly, it is a plugin within Revit. So you are going to get a tab. And if you use Enscape, your browser might look slightly different than mine, simply because Enscape just released 3.0, I think, this week or very late last week. So we're still seeing some updates. So yours might look slightly different. But one of the very nice things with Enscape is they do provide a very robust asset library. I'll try to open it. We'll see how slow this might go. But most of the stuff that you see within this rendering, the plant here in the background, all of these books, the salt and pepper shaker, all this kind of elements in here, that's all provided from Enscape. So it's pretty nice and robust entourage that they do have and do provide, and they are continually updating it as well. So let me see. If I open this, of course it opens on another screen. That's what happens when you run multiple screens. You can see all, you know, nearly 2,500 assets for Enscape. So that's certainly a lot that you can parse through and use. And I think one of my favorite parts of the asset library is the amount of vegetation that they do have, which I know can be very difficult to find. So over 500 components just for vegetation. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the questions box. We do want to be aware of the half-an-hour time limit that we have promised you all for today. Any questions at all, please feel free to type those in. Rebecca, anything that you want to follow up with?
Yeah, so while we give everyone a minute, I think if we have completed, you know, Enscape and our tools, we can take a look at what we have coming up for our live webinars, and one of them is actually for Enscape. So that is in a month, and that will be going over Enscape 3.0. So like Maria mentioned, things do look a little bit different with Enscape 3.0, but it will be the word I'm looking for, more user-friendly. So definitely join us April 16 at 1 o'clock. Enscape will be presenting to go through it. And we do have 2 more webinars this month. So tomorrow, AutoCAD productivity at 1. And next Friday, we have a webinar specifically for Autodesk docs. So that is now included on the AEC collection. So if you got an email recently saying, hey, we've completed your order for Autodesk docs and you don't remember ever doing that, that's because it now comes with AEC collection. So please join us next Friday also to go over that, to understand what it is, how it works, and it comes with AEC collection. So definitely register for that as well. I'm going to take a quick peek and see if we got any questions here. Oh, awesome. We have a request for more lengthy webinars on both Revit and AutoCAD with MicroCAD. Yes, we can definitely do that. Let us know, what topics you're looking for with Revit and AutoCAD. And we can definitely, set up longer ones, for an hour going through that. And anyone else here, whatever topics there are that you are looking for, for 30-minute or 1-hour webinars that we can go through with you, definitely let us know. And topics, everything. Awesome. So we'll definitely, get started on that for you. And, if you do need any online training classes, for Revit or AutoCAD, whatever it might be, we do have a lot coming up. We might be able to share that class schedule now too from our website.
Give me 1 second. Yes, so we do have a ton coming up. So let me see. I'm just going to filter. I filter by, let's see. We filter by class. So just for example, we have 2 RA 101s coming up. So that is something you can be interested in. There is Revit architecture specifically in regards to railings. If you're MEP, there's some plumbing and piping. There's productivity for architecture. There's also some productivity and fundamentals for AutoCAD as well. So feel free to take a look through all of that. We do have, as you can see, a very robust calendar in the upcoming months. So we like to push those at least 3 months out. And of course, if an open enrollment does not suit your fancy, or if you have, 3 to 4 people in your company that want training, we can do something private to your company as well. So keep that in mind. We can certainly open the discussion for that as well.
Yeah, and for the time being, it is online. That's just what it is for right now. Hopefully in the future, we can move towards doing them, in our training centers in Boston, in New York, all the other ones that we have. But for now, they are online. And we can definitely send out the link for the upcoming webinars and for these classes to everyone. You should get a follow-up email later on today, so we can include the link there. And in there, we will include the links to the 2 brochures as well, just in case you don't download them now. But I don't see any other questions for the tools or for Enscape. But if you do have any, if you think of anything later on, you can email us or respond to the follow-up email you'll get later today. And I think we have hit the 30-minute mark. And I don't see anything else. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great rest of the day. Have a great Friday, a great weekend. And we hope to see you at our upcoming webinars.
All right. Thank you, everyone.